Growing up as the youngest of 6 siblings, I knew at a really young age I would have to put myself through college. So by the time I was 19, I saved enough money to put me through college with the help of scholarships and have plenty left over. Well, my eldest sister got married a month ago, and my parents took out a second mortgage, $30,000 to help pay for her wedding. My dad lost his job right after, and I knew that they were struggling financially. So when my mom texted me a few weeks ago saying, "Call me as soon as you can," I knew what she was asking for. I didn't have a problem lending them a few thousand and help them pay their bills, and I'd also give them a few of my tutoring gigs to help make some extra cash. But what I didn't expect was my parents' demand that I gave them the near $40,000 I saved to put myself through college. When I disagreed, my mom said, "You made that money under our roof. We were the ones who allowed you to work, so you have it because of us anyway. We bought you food and clothes for 18 years. I said that's a bare minimum when you sign up to become parents. And she hung up on me saying I wouldn't have the life I have today if it wasn't for them. I feel awful for refusing to help them out, but on the other hand, this was their fault.
If this doesn't prove how dangerous our world can be sometimes, then I don't know what will. So a girl named Jesselyn sent me her story through my Instagram. She was about 9 years old when she was in Las Vegas with her family, and she was going home to LA, and they needed to stop for gas. Jesselyn really needed to pee, so her dad stopped at the Buffalo Bill Casino and Resort, and he takes her to the bathroom. So he waits for her, and then they leave together. And as they're exiting, they get approached by this random lady that literally came from a van. And she says, "How much?" Jezebel and her dad are really confused, so they're like, "What?" And the lady in the van points at Jezebel and says, "How much for that little girl?" Immediately, he goes, "She's not for sale." And the woman actually grabs Jezebel and tries to pull her, but Jezebel's dad slapped the woman's hand. No. So Jezebel and her dad walk back over to the car where her mom and her brothers are, and her dad says, "Oh my God, you cannot believe what happened." And he tells her. Then the lady from the van goes up to the mother's window, opens her purse, and shows a lot of money. And she says, "You have 2 sons, just give me the girl." And then she tried to tell them that she couldn't have kids and she just really wanted one. She was really persistent, and they drove off and then called the cops.
My stepdad tried to kill us. Story time. Growing up, my mom was in a very toxic relationship with my stepdad. And it was so bad that they would argue every single day, and many nights my mom would be left crying. And she tried to hide it from me and my brother, but we knew what was going on. Well, this one time they got into an argument, it got super heated and it almost became physical. Me and my brother had to literally hold them back from each other. And their fight became so big that my mom had to call the police to get him removed from the house. And after that entire incident, the next day he came back to the house to get all of his stuff and then he just left. And we thought we would never have to see him again. Until about a week later. During the middle of the night while we were all sleeping, he snuck into our house, put gasoline on everything, and set it on fire. And the only reason we got out of there is because the fire alarm started going off. Then my mom woke up, ran to our room, and we had to literally jump out the window.
This is the reason why everybody thought I dropped out of high school. Over the 4 years of high school, I was probably in school a total of 100 times altogether. And this wasn't because I was lazy. I mean, partially. But it was mostly because I had really bad stomach problems. So I always had these doctor's appointments. I was always missing school because my stomach hurt. So then my junior year, since my attendance was really bad, they decided to put me on home instruction. This means that teachers would come to my house for about 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. And my teachers had to bring with them these time slips. For example, saying that they saw me from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And when I was a minor, my dad had to sign it. And when they hand in those time slips, those are the hours they're getting paid for. So I had this one teacher. She was my history teacher, but we would literally just gossip the entire time. She was mad chill. Sometimes, though, she would cancel on me, and sometimes I would cancel on her. But this was my senior year, so I was 18. So I was able to sign the time slips. So I saw her once a month when I was supposed to see her 4 times a month. So every time she came, I signed 4 time slips. I got the credit, she got the check.
When my parents decided to get a divorce, I chose to stay with my dad. He was more financially stable, and he also promised to take care of me in the future and help me go through college as long as I graduated. When my grandmother from my mother's side passed away, I received a $30,000 inheritance. And recently, my grandfather from my father's side passed away and left me with $50,000 as well. I was also working part-time jobs, and with all of that, I was able to save enough to comfortably put me through my 4 years of school. One day, my mom surprised my stepsister and bought her a brand new car. I was kind of shocked because it was way out of their budget because I knew they were struggling financially. When I looked at my bank account, I saw that a majority of my money was missing. I have my mom on all of my accounts because she wanted to monitor to make sure I don't spend too much money. I never would have thought she would have taken this and paid for my stepsister's car. Her reasoning was that my stepsister had a brighter future and had a bigger possibility of going to an Ivy League school and providing for us in the future. While I, a student who gets mostly B's and C's, would just take over the family business, so I didn't really need it and I could always work in the future.
Okay, so story time. I've never been able to sleep in any type of noise. Like, I just can't do it. I have this little noisemaker in my room, which just creates like a constant like fan sound so that it just blocks out any noise from outside, but it's just like a consistent noise. And that like helps me to fall asleep. I don't know what it is with my brain. Like, I literally, if I hear the slightest sound, like if I have to strain my ears to hear it, my brain will be like, oh, I still heard it. Like, now I'm awake. So I've always been like this. And in elementary school, one day, it was like really late at night. It was like 1 a.m. or something. And I was fast asleep in my little like twin bed. And I woke up because I heard this loud boom. So obviously I woke up. I go to the stairs and I see my mom at the bottom, like on the floor. And my dad's like, oh my God, are you okay? He's like, honey, go to sleep. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to sleep. I have to see this. Like, I'm not about to go to sleep. And I swear it took me so long to go to sleep after this, but my dad went rushing after to help my mom, and he ended up falling too. If they had asked for help, I would have said no, because I was not about to be next.
Part 2 of why sleeping in might just save your life. After talking to the bus driver, my mom came back looking terrified, but she didn't say anything about it and told me to finish getting ready for school. At the time, I didn't know what happened, but my mom would end up telling me a few years later. When she went to the second bus, she found out it was being driven by my regular driver and it was full of other kids that are usually on my route. By the way, the other bus was empty. My mom asked the driver about the substitute driver and about him calling in sick. He tells her that he never called in sick and there is no substitute driver on his route. The driver immediately called dispatch in a panic and told my mom to go inside and call the police and report this incident, which she did without me knowing at the time. There was absolutely no one doing my driver's route that day. Whoever this was most likely a kidnapper who had targeted me. I never heard anything about it again, not even if someone else had ended up being picked up by this mysterious fake bus driver. But chances are, had I gotten on that bus, I would never have made it to school or back home. And if we hadn't overslept on that specific day, I would have been on that bus.
I may have gotten a child in trouble today. Story time. So today I went to the store to buy some things because I needed some things. So I went to the store, gathered all my items, and then I got in line. And I ended up being behind a mom and her son had to be like 6 or 7 years old. So the boy and his mom get up to the register, and you know how they have candy next to the register for you to buy? The little boy asked his mom if he could have a chocolate, and she was like, no, you don't need any right now. So he gets mad, folds his arm, and then he turns around and he looks at me. And this is where I may have made a mistake. I lean down and I whisper to him and I'm like, just steal the chocolate, nobody's gonna notice. Now, of course I was joking, but he actually took the chocolate and put it in his pocket. And I thought he was gonna get away with it too, but he did not. While I was at the register buying my stuff, they start walking out the door and a security guard came from the back and stopped them. And security was like, what do you got in your pocket, little buddy? You plan on buying that? And then the little boy's mom starts yelling at him and she's like, what do you have in your pockets? I didn't teach you to steal. You were not raised like that. And I ain't say nothing. I bought my stuff and walked right past him.
This is why waking up late might just save your life. One day when I was in elementary school, my mom and I both overslept, which meant I wouldn't be ready in time to get on the bus. School started at 8, my bus pickup time was at 7, and it was already 6:40 or something. I was still in my PJs and hadn't even had breakfast yet. My mom decided that today we would just tell the bus driver to go on ahead and she would take me to school, which would give me plenty of time to get ready. It's 6:50, I'm in my PJs eating breakfast, and that's when we hear the bus pull up 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. My mom peeks her head out of the door into the foggy morning and waves the bus on. She closed the door and came back inside, but the bus didn't pull away. There's a knock at the door, and my mom opens it to find a man in a bus driver uniform. He explains he's a substitute bus driver because the regular driver called in sick, and that he's early because he wanted to get an early start on the route. My mom says she's taking me to school because we woke up late. He gets visibly upset and says he can wait a few minutes since he's already ahead of schedule. My mom says that we won't be ready in a few minutes and tells him to go on ahead. He seemed really angry about this, but turned around, got back on the bus, and left. But at 7 a.m., another bus pulls up to my house. My mom went out to talk to them and came back looking terrified.
This is why you should never watch TV late at night. Once a mother and a father decided they needed a break, so they planned a night out together, and they left their 2 children with their babysitter at home. Everything was going good, the children were well behaved, and the babysitter was just sitting around while watching the kids, but eventually she decided that she wanted to watch some TV. It turns out she couldn't watch it downstairs because they didn't have cable downstairs, so she called the parents and asked if she could watch TV with the kids in their room upstairs. The parents agreed. They were about to hang up the phone when the babysitter had one final request. As she entered the parents' bedroom, she asked if she could cover up their large clown statue with a cloth or a blanket. She said it was making her very uncomfortable. The phone line went dead for a second. Then the mother said over the phone, "Take the children and get out of the house. We don't have a clown statue." As the babysitter turned around, she saw the corners of the clown's mouth widen into a smile.
This man's wife left him, but not for the reasons he thought. Once there was a couple who just got married in Paris. They were very happy together, but the wife had one secret she didn't tell her husband yet. She had a birthmark on her face. She'd been wearing makeup to cover it, but she thought once she showed her husband, she would know whether he truly loved her. So after they got married, she took off her makeup and showed him. He was surprised, but he wasn't going to let that change anything. However, the next morning, his wife was gone. Her husband thought that she must have felt upset due to how surprised he looked when he saw her birthmark. Or maybe she had second thoughts. After months of getting no reply, he finally gave up on trying to look for her. He was heartbroken, but after a few years, he got a new job in a different city. He wanted a fresh start in life, but things didn't go as planned. He came across a strange-looking circus called the House of Oddities. This made him very curious, so he went in, but what he saw inside would shock him. Among the other circus acts, he saw a twisted woman rocking back and forth, looking terrified. He screamed as he recognized the birthmark on her face.